Hi there, everybody. Welcome to The Hard Truth Inside the Football Industry podcast with me, Philip Ideson, and Darragh MacAnthony, chairman and co-owner of Peterborough United. And we're going to start, Darragh, with not the football that we all know and love, but a different football here on the other side of the pond. And your boys, the Buccaneers.
TB12, baby, the GOAT. Listen, I'm a Brady fan, so I was naturally like supporting Tampa. I'm still a Patriots fan, but watching greatness again go out and do the business, because everyone's talking about the baby goat Mahomes and he's going to like beat Brady, and I absolutely loved that last night. I had my dad around with a barbecue. My dad's fully vaccinated, so he was hugging and kissing the kids, which is great to see. And really enjoyed it, and it was one for the ages. So 7 rings, one of the most successful people in sports ever.
Yep.
Of course, that all led to the usual articles on racism, and a lot of people have come out and they're having to go Brady because he once had a MAGA hat in his locker years ago, and he plays golf with Donald Trump. So it's like the great white supremacy, GOAT.
Everything's got to be tied back to politics.
Everything's got to go back to politics and racism again. And it's like, can we not just fucking enjoy the greatest of all time in his position? I couldn't give a fuck if he was purple, or white, yellow, or black. Like, I love Michael Jordan. I am a massive Tiger Woods fan. I love Serena Williams. Couldn't give a fuck, their ethnicity. At the end of the day, greatness is greatness. And that's what I enjoyed watching last night.
And here he is at what, 42 at this
43.
point? 43.
Incredible.
Turning an average team into a world champion.
He's beaten Father Time. Yeah. Do you know what was interesting is they've always had a good team, the Bucks, but shit results. They were known as the Succaneers instead of the Buccaneers. And what he's done is, and this just shows you sometimes what one person can do to a football team. He's gone in, and same in soccer, he's gone in and he's brought good habits. He's brought winning mentality. He's made people show up for work on time. They used to be one of the worst for those little things you'd hear at the locker room. They would show up, they'd be late to team meetings. When TB12, the GOAT, walks in,
no excuses.
No excuses. You follow. He's the hardest worker. We spoke earlier. He's the hardest worker in the room. And that has paid off. And they've won a Super Bowl. That's their first Super Bowl in 18 years. That's not a coincidence. So if you're a footballer, if you're someone out there playing in a team, think about that. Think about the things Tom Brady does in his 40s that you could be doing in your 20s. Yeah.
It's interesting. There's something that, and I didn't see the details of it, but kind of the intent of it was, you want to look at what a winner looks like, look at the schedule that he goes through every single day at still 43 years old.
Incredible. To
be the best in the world.
I read the other day, he hasn't drank coffee since he was a teenager. Like, I know a couple of our players like a coffee. And it's like, they're the things you don't put in your body when you're an athlete. You look at Cristiano Ronaldo. I've told stories. I've been on holiday where he was staying next door and I'd see him on the beach at 6:30 in the morning. I mean, this pursuit of perfection is relentless. And people like that, they get their just desserts. They get the results from the work they put in. It's not coincidence. It's not, yes, they can be phenoms, Tiger Woods, he's once in a generation athletes, Roger Federer, Nadal. You know what? They work hard. And it's like, there's got to be something in that as well. It's got to be not just talent. It's got to be hard work. And, we speak about this all the time. We spoke in a business podcast earlier on. We filmed it. The harder you work, the luckier you get. I know with our team, the harder we work on the pitch, the better results we get. When we drop those standards by 10%, we lose games.
Now, you got Tom Brady doing it at 43. As you said, you've actually got Zlatan Ibrahimovic going great guns at, 39 in
scored
Serie A.
His 500th goal yesterday, I think it was.
He's got something like 11 in 14 this season.
Incredible.
Now, bringing that back to kind of the way that you think about transfers, and you're always looking at kind of younger players to come through. Now, are these special one-offs, or is there something to be said for somebody who's older who can come in that's got no resale, but they bring something different?
Do you know, a good comparison would be, in our league, at our level, would be James Coppinger, who at Doncaster has turned 40 and has been incredible, and has had like a second career since he went back to Doncaster. And is still a performer and still contributes and is probably awesome in the dressing room. So, yes, I've never really signed loads of experienced players, but you'll always take those one or two special ones. We had Michael Hyde. Recently we had Beavers. We've had a couple of older ones. But, if Peterborough in the Premier League, would we sign a 35-year-old that brings world class to the dressing room? Of course we bloody would. But we're in League One. So it's very, very different. Teams nowadays aren't going to have geriatrics and veterans running around their teams with wage caps and everything going on in the world of finances. It's not the right way to go. But a good team will always have one or two, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we're talking about iconic, great ones here. I mean, and you could also say Serena Williams is 35, Roger Federer's 39.
Which is incredible in a game of tennis.
They're defeating Father Time.
Yeah.
And it's like great to see. And we love it. And as fans of sports, like that's what I was like laughing about all the politics and the articles. You know, I just love sports. And why does everything have to be politicized? Do you know what I mean? It was just like, let's just enjoy the greatness.
Well, you got back to winning ways after a
Yeah,
tough
we
week.
were good. I mean, you know, look, yes, we did. And to be fair, we had a couple of shitty results, but there were a couple of shitty results. But as usual, brings out all the, you know, I mean, look, I've said this before and I'll say it again, you know, season, you know, isn't 25 games, it's 46. So let's get to the end of the season and see where we are. But I've always had a lot of confidence in what we've done. I have a lot of confidence in the manager. I might be narky and criticise them occasionally, which I've done and I'll always do, but I give them credit too. And in the circumstances with our pitch, with everything going on, we were very good on Saturday against a good Crew team. And we're going to have to be very good tomorrow night against the rejuvenated Ipswich team. So, and then leading on from that, you go away to Blackpool, you know, a long trip. So we're there. We're in the shake-up. The fans can moan all they want. They can scream at me on Twitter when we lose, but we're in the shake-up. It's where we want to be. We want to be in the shake-up with 5 games to go.
Yep.
And our run-in right now, our last 4 games is Charlton, Doncaster, and Lincoln. You know, if we're in the shake-up for those 4 games, it's going to be a hell of a
That's a few 6-pointers.
Yeah, that's kind of massive, like the end of the season. But, you know, fair play. The lads did it on Saturday. Let's see if they can do it again tomorrow night.
Yeah, we lost the end of our
No shame,
run, but no.
Good team, Exeter. Good result.
Exeter's somewhere that we lost 3-2. We took the lead twice, which is always disappointing when you take the lead a couple of
But you're
times.
showing fight.
But yeah, I mean, this going 3-2 behind was the first time in 9 games we've actually lost a lead.
This 11 you've got right now, if it started the season, would you be in the promotion shake-up?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Look at that confidence straight away. 3 months ago, you'd been like, fuck it.
We were going down.
Crickets. You were. Brilliant.
Yeah, but so I wasn't disappointed. I mean, you're always disappointed to lose, but I wasn't in the big picture. We have Scunthorpe tomorrow night if the game goes ahead. We'll see about that, and then we have Salford at home on Saturday.
So I've got a report. Don't mention his names. I don't want to tip anyone off in case you know the way posh like to do business. I just want you to look at the name, and you know I always send my little scouts out and about everywhere. So here we go, recruitment. So there we go. So look at that name right there. Don't say his name out loud. All right? Yay or nay?
Yeah.
Okay. Say no more.
All right.
There you go. Because that was the final. I've had 3 reports done on them. So yeah, okay, good. So moving on anyway before Bradford fans lose their shit.
What else do we have? We have Man City
I watched that
trouncing
yesterday.
Liverpool.
Yeah, I expected that.
And it was interesting. There's an article in The Athletic about FSG.
Right.
And there's a lot of good articles in The Athletic.
There is.
That really go into depth about some of the...
I like it. Look, the ownership's been poor. I've given credit to them in the past. I have to say they've been poor. Klopp's been poor, but they've been poor. I said they did good business in deadline day. They brought 2 centre-halves in. It cost them about 500 grand with what went out and what came in. But that should have been done weeks before. Liverpool have been playing handicapped. You're playing 2 of your best midfielders at the back. You're not going to win the league playing like that. So that's poor ownership to allow that to happen. I'm sorry, people won't like to hear it. I will take the same criticism if I force Darren Ferguson to play top of the table League One with 2 central midfielders at the back.
Yep.
Now, where Klopp is poor is allowing it to get so long. You should have pushed them and forced them to do business earlier in January. Sunday he played Man City. He'd already played Henderson and Fabinho before together. Don't think we won that game either. He knows how important our midfield is. He should have risked one of the new centre-halves playing, keep Fabinho back there, put Jordan back in midfield. Thiago's not made us a better team. Don't know why. Don't know if it's going to take him a while to adjust. I don't know if Germany and Spain, it's a different pace. For me, he's not done it. When you're bringing players off the bench like Milner, with all due respect, Shaqiri, Origi, you know, once our front three is not firing, with the issues we have, we're not a very good squad. We're a great team when we're on form. Squad-wise, we're fucking top 7. And that's the truth. That shows how good Klopp's been the last few years to get what he got out of that team. But there's no doubt about it. If Fenway thought they could get away with doing things on the cheap, let me tell you right now, for them to win the league again properly, to have a proper run, they're probably going to need to spend 60, 70 million on a new number 9.
Yeah.
They're probably going to need to spend a lot of money on another midfielder in there. They're going to lose Wijnaldum at the end of the season. So they're going to have to spend in the summer. And if there's any more issues with the centre-backs and these 2 new ones don't slot in, they're going to have to spend there too. So there is some surgery for Liverpool. But they have left Klopp in this position. Now, the goalkeeper, who was once the best goalkeeper, Liverpool fans, don't kid yourself. He is not the best goalkeeper in the world, and he hasn't been for a while. In fact, he's been injury-prone, and he has got those mistakes in him. I was glad Klopp was kind of critical afterwards. He said it. He said he told him he had the option of going into the stands.
Yeah.
What on fucking earth he was doing.
Yeah.
So you'd like to see Alisson play every game to the end of the season now. No more stupid little niggly injuries or illnesses, and get back to being what he was good a year ago, 18 months ago. But my real thing for Liverpool now is I really worry about top 4. And Fenway will panic like fuck if they don't get top 4 Champions League money. Because they budget on that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, it's pretty much a self-sustaining business model, isn't it?
It'll be their fault. If they don't get there, it'll be their fault.
Yeah.
They left Klopp with those tools. It'll be their fault. And I would blame Klopp for not being aggressive enough with them that he needed more. Now, you can argue Jota was a great signing, but he was only one. And injuries happen.
Yeah.
So you take the front 3. What have you got? Jota's injured. Who are you playing?
It feels like you're going to have to get lucky with signings.
Correct.
Rather than going and buying the best.
And I look at Man City, and I look at the players, and I look at Foden, what a young English talent he is. They're playing with no strikers. There's no Aguero. There's no Jesus. There's no De Bruyne. And they're going out there. Fair play to Guardiola. He's changed the style. He's made them more resilient, more clean sheet savvy. And they're bringing their younger players through, and they're evolving. For me, with Liverpool, you look at the front 3 as they're aging. And they are like, look, Firmino is nothing like he used to be. I don't care how much people say he makes them tick and whatever else. He's a number 9 who scores 6-7 goals a year. It's not good enough. Mane has been patchy for me this season. Salah. But, the other 2, I've let Salah down in my opinion. So, look, we've got an issue. If we don't win the next 2 games, which is against, I believe, Leicester away and Everton at home, we won't make top 4.
Now, do you think last year, therefore, being the top of the cycle rather than the beginning of a new one?
It's when you go out and strengthen. It's what Ferguson always did. I know Liverpool in the summer brought Jota and Thiago in, but they did it because they sold players and they had special payment
They've
terms.
self-funded it again.
Yeah, again, the net spend for Jurgen is really low. But what they needed to do was go out, even in a pandemic, and go out and spend serious money. You look at Man United, Fernandes a year ago, or what they spent on him. Liverpool needed to go out and make 2 of those signings. And now is the time to do it. So in the summer, they're going to have to do business. And I'm just not sure if Fenway want to spend. So I don't know where this goes. Look, I love Jurgen. If anyone can get them back on track, it's him. And I hope he does. Because he's grumpy. He's cranky. He's not used to this. And he's losing his shit now with press and with journalists. And, the team need to dig him out of it. Because he's dug them out enough times. So those experienced players that he keeps persevering with in the middle, they need to dig them out of this now and get, because they can do it. My concern now is Chelsea have got a world-class manager.
Yeah.
They're starting to win games. I keep saying Mourinho will still have a good end to the season. He's got Kane back fit. United and City are a shoe-in for top 2. Leicester have been strong all season as long as they don't have a fall-off like last year, which I don't expect them to. I do worry about Liverpool top 4. I really do. It's a concern.
So I want to come down to League One and financials in League One.
Yep.
So I don't know if you saw this last week. We had Lee Power at Swindon talking about how difficult things were financially at Swindon, and that basically selling a player on transfer deadline day was a way that you could fund the club for the next month. Are you seeing things that, it really is difficult times? I mean, we've talked about this since August, how it's going to happen, but are we coming to
it's horrific.
kind of crunch time?
It's horrific. I mean, I'm reading all these people who are putting together tweets and messages about banning gambling adverts and football clubs shouldn't be allowed, and they want to make it a law and everything else. And I'm looking at them going, yeah, I don't want anyone to become a gambling addict. But fuck me, we as football clubs have no income. Like, dearie me. I understand.
It's the worst possible time
it's
to
like
do it.
you want to do this right now. It's horrendous. There's nothing. Our club shop's not open. Nothing's open. We have no income. No football clubs have income. My partners are standing up millions to keep the club going till the end of the season. Why are they doing it? Because, they're great partners like me, with me, and we have players we can sell when we need to. But what other clubs must be going through? When I see our figures, when I see our figures, I can only imagine what other clubs are going through. Lee Power, I can't speak for him, but there's got to be so many other clubs that are just on the edge right now. By Jesus, if like Boris Johnson and the lockdown lovers continue this for next year, we're talking about, we're going into a territory no one's ever going to come back from.
Now we have Plymouth, who published all their financials. I think it was today, and we're really transparent, I think, about what's going on, what the numbers look like.
Good new owner there, yeah.
Yeah, and my question is less about Plymouth and more around, like, where do you stand on what should be published to be transparent versus kind of what you can give up too much that then is used against you in negotiations?
We give info up all the time. I think it's out there, a lot of our accounts when they're published, and I think because we've got like 0.1% of the fans are shareholders, so they get that too. I don't like when like the Price of Football podcast guy like digs into our transfer deals. So, you know, we've obviously sold players and we've brought forward and factored payments. And he likes to list those and go through those, and sometimes that does give me the hump, because it's kind of like, geez, you know, I'm trying to do things the right way here. You know, trying to run a football club as best we can. Do we need all our dirty laundry aired? But I understand the want to do it. We've always been transparent. I've got no problem if people want to know what our wage bill is, if people, you know, want to know all the ins and outs. Right now, it's really easy. We don't have any income bar TV money that we've, you know, pre-booked that's in, you know, TV and Sky money and advance money. We have wage bills. We have players who haven't taken pay cuts or pay freezes this season. You know, they're getting paid in full. We've obviously furloughed some staff and retained a lot of staff. No one's lost their jobs, but it's bloody tough. And that's us posh, and that's us top four in League One. God knows what it's like at Sunderland. You know, God knows what it's like at some of these other clubs. I mean, you then have the smaller clubs who, God bless them, have done things right. Probably they're bringing $1 million in, they're only spending $1 million. So they're not in any danger of going out of business. So, yeah, and then on top of all of that, to exasperate it, we've got a pitch that's had a burst water main, and, you know, it's just been one thing after another.
It's like everything that can go wrong has gone
really,
wrong.
really tough, really, really exhausting. And to get to the end of the season and get it done and dusted and in the bag and hopefully normality next year, it'd be like, a big bit of a relief.
Now, it's something, you know, I mentioned an article in The Athletic before about Fenway, but there was also one around, and this is probably a couple of weeks old, about debt loads on the Premier League clubs. There was the analysis into how much debt is each club carrying.
I saw that.
And I think before the pandemic, the combined debt of Premier League clubs was something like £4 billion, which was 83% of turnover, but half of those were actually owed in loans. Right. So it's more like equity.
It doesn't paint the real
loans.
picture, does it?
Right.
Like, out of that $4 billion, Abramovich has probably owed $300 million.
Yeah.
You know, that's 10%. And is he going to call it in on Chelsea tomorrow? No, of course not. But here's the reality: if Abramovich sold Chelsea, sell it for $2 billion, he'd make a profit. You know, Man United sell, Man City, you know, any of those owners in the top clubs sell, they're making a profit.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about debt and you want to talk about whatever else. That's not, for me, that's not real debt. That's not like, oh my God almighty, Chelsea owe $500 million and that debt's becoming due at the end of the year. So it's not real. I know they love doing articles on it and it's like, ooh, look at football and it's X amount % of the TV deal. It's not really reflective.
So from a club perspective, you know, is there such a thing as a healthy level of debt?
Yeah, look, we've always carried millions in debt at our club, but all of that's been to the owners. There's never been, you know...
It's like external.
Right, do we own Bristol City £1 million for Sammy Smodic? Yes, of course, over X amount of years, or same with Bristol Rovers, or, you know, whatever players we've signed, that you would call that debt. Yes, they're creditors. But the real creditors, you know, are there creditors that are going to be like at the door with the bailiffs? No. Really, we're the main creditors. Myself, my partners have been wonderful. We're the ones owed millions. We're the ones funding the club. The football clubs we owe money to in transfer fees, that's per schedule. It's not owed. It's owed per contract.
No, there's a difference between football debt and operational debt too.
Yeah, of course. But then you'll have other clubs, I would imagine, who could have, you know, bailiffs at the door who haven't paid VAT or haven't paid POE or haven't paid things that become due, and then it becomes an issue.
No, I want to talk. We actually, back in episode 33, which was over Christmas period, we talked about kind of the economics of a football club. And we talked the first part of that, which is more funding, what some of the costs are and all that kind of stuff. What I wanted to talk about today, and we kind of pushed this off for a couple of weeks just because there was a lot of things going on the last few weeks, was financing a football club, basically, which alludes a little bit. It kind of rolls in from the question that we just asked before. But from a typical football club perspective, what are the sources of finance? You know, whether it's owner, whether it's traditional financing, some creative sources. Where does a football club get its money from?
I always, when I bought Posh, I put up an overdraft. So, like, you know, Barclays would allow us to have an overdraft of like 2 million. But I had to put 2 million up. So, you know, I had to get like a letter of credit from banks to do that.
So it's basically...
it's my money frozen.
Yeah, it was
so it wasn't really an overdraft, you know, but I was paying like 100 grand to service it every year. So I got rid of it. There was no point because it was just wasted money. So very few banks will lend people money to help a football club. The only way you're going to be able to finance a club if you've not got any money is if you've got your own personal assets, your own houses. I said I've done that before. You got your own money, or if you've sold a player and you can leverage and factor the owed transfer fee down the line. So they're the ways. At the end of the day, a football club is down to, if it's run sensibly and it doesn't need an owner, great, like an AFC Wimbledon maybe, or like an Exeter, fan-owned clubs that don't maybe overspend, don't live outside of their means. Other clubs like a Posh, like whatever. Look, we always go ground zero every year where we go, this year was heavier, but usually 2.5 million is the figure. So we know we're going to have a cash flow deficit of 2.5 million. We start with that. And what we then have in there that we don't have in the budget is cup run. Say we play Chelsea, we get to the third round, 500,000, knocked off, 2.5 down to 2. Say we sell a 17-year-old starlet for 2 million, that wipes out the cash flow. Say our gates are up 20%, say we have a playoff run, say we won the checker trade, there's another 700-800 grand. So suddenly the 2.5 gets down and down and down. What you don't want to see is when it goes up and up and up and up, which it has this year. Because you put in crowds coming back, they're not coming back. Season ticket refunds. The little bit of playoff money you might make from having higher gates, it's not in there. Decide not to sell a player during the season, goes up, up and up. Suddenly 2.5 can become 4 million. So then you're it's not that you're under pressure, but personally you are, because personally you're also dealing with COVID. So it's not easy owning a football club. You can have sleepless nights from owning a football club, that's for sure.
So when you're at your 2.5 million, let's just say you plan deficit start of the year, and you end the year and you got knocked out in the first round of the cups, you didn't sell a player.
Have a shit season.
You're at 2.5 million at the end of the season.
Me and the partners have to fund it.
Yeah, so are you looking at, okay, we have to fund that, we're going to put that money in, or are we looking at it, we're going to go into our academy and sell a couple of players?
If we can do that. If we can't do that, it comes out of our own banks. And what we'll do then is we'll say, come out of our own banks, but when we do sell a player, we'll get it back.
Yeah, so you're doing it as a loan to the football club?
Yes, correct. It goes in as a loan. There'll be a small bit of interest having to be paid back. Because usually if you're like years have gone by when I've taken money out of a home, I've got to pay and leverage interest on it, the usual stuff. So yeah, you're absolutely right. So say we've had to put 4 million in this year. We sell a player for 8 million. 4 of the 8 goes back to the owners. The 4 goes into the club for next season. And that's the perfect world of a good transfer policy where you're raising enough money where hopefully you don't have to keep borrowing from the owners. The whole idea that Jason and Randy want our academy to be profitable and productive is so the club's not reliant on running at 2-3 million losses a year. If you're producing your own players, you're not having to go out and sign as many players. You're not paying silly wages. You're not relying on outside ownership to invest money in, because your academy is producing that £1-2 million player every year.
Good players, they're young, they're cheap from a wage perspective.
Correct. They're still teenagers, they're still young, they're not on silly dough yet, but everything is like sensible. And we had one 17, 18-year-old who we could have sold this window for $1 million. With a 15-year-old that we got offered 550 by 2 Premier League clubs, a foreign kid. So we could have raised 1.5. But my partner said, look, let's go to the summer. And then in the summer, we'll come back.
See where we are.
Yeah, correct. And that's a great way. That's great to have partners like that. And Jason has a great saying in there. He talks about his trees growing. Why would you sell a tree when it's half grown? So, and it's the right mindset to have. And if you can afford to have the mindset, great. And no doubt those players are probably going to be worth more money in the summer.
Yeah. If you don't have that ability to do so, some clubs don't have the ability.
Fucked.
Yeah, where is there to go?
You're fucked. There is nowhere to go. If an owner runs out of money and there's nowhere to go, where you're going is the bailiffs. Where you're going is Wigan. Where you're going is Portsmouth some years ago. Where you're going is, who else? Bolton.
Yeah.
That's where you're going. That is the horror. I've spent my whole life in football always with one eye of, I never want to be in that position, touch wood, where I can't pay the players, I can't pay the bills. The embarrassment of having to put my club in administration would be horrific.
When you're thinking about what kind of investments to make, therefore, how are you kind of trading off, let's start with, like playing staff and non-playing staff? Are you putting all your money into results on the field today, or are you thinking about this, that I need to still invest out off the field to help kind of...
I've always over the years, backed up that when we sold players, we invested. We sell Ivan Toney, we go out and spend $2.5 million on Clark Harrison Schmollocks. Jason's got that mindset with the academy. Cat 3 is not good enough, we're going up to Cat 2.
Yeah.
Means we have to put more money in, but there's more money available. What does that also mean? It means better facilities, it means better coaches, full-time coaches, a lot more coaches, which means the younger players will be coached better. By the time they turn 16, 17, Their talent is brought forward quicker. So it goes hand in hand. What do they say? Speculate to accumulate. So I guess it's the same kind of thing. Then you could be the club. If we're the club who doesn't go out and still gets gems or signs players or whatever else, it becomes very difficult. Then it turns into a vicious circle. You suddenly back to what you said 5 minutes ago. If you're a club with no assets to sell, who are you? What are you doing? If all your players are out of contract at the end of the season, how do you have any assets to sell? We're not that club.
Infrastructure. So making investments in infrastructure, obviously something that you're doing right now at Peterborough with the new stadium. Thinking about it again from an investment perspective of when and if to make that, is that dependent on the financial health of the football club, or are you looking at those kind of things independently?
I think a lot aside each other. I think everyone wants to own their own home. Everyone knows that paying out $500,000 in rent every year is dead money. After 10 years, you own the stadium. So at the end of the day, owning your property is best, because then you can also, you're already spending money on repairs and all the bits and pieces, so you can make changes you want to make without asking permission because you're paying anyway. You can do so many different things. I don't know when the ideal time to do that is. I guess when you have money. My partner's very good position they're in. They want this stadium deal to happen. It's happening. It'll get closed, then possibly a new stadium. So that can only strengthen the football club, you know, down the line.
Is there a business case for investing in the stadium when it's not yours? So what I mean is like building a new stand or something like that.
No, and that's the problem we've been in. We've been spending fortunes on the pitch. We've been spending fortunes in dressing rooms. We've been spending fortunes on repairs and reparations and electrical stuff. And we were looking at spending 350 grand on a new restaurant and bar, but it wouldn't be ours. We'd be paying rent. So that's one of the reasons we wanted to do a deal to bring it back under ownership, you know, so that we can make all those things and know that we own the stadium. So that's when it makes sense. But you put a stand in and you don't own the stadium, madness.
So when you look at League One and League Two, how many clubs are actually in a position to be able to plan strategically around investing back into the business, back into the stadium, versus we just need to pay the bills next month?
Right now, COVID stage, and no one's in great position, anyone. No one has any slush fund money to invest in little things.
Right.
You know, right now, I guarantee you there's some club in League One calling up a chairman going, we need 20 grand to be spent on this pitch on the training ground, or we need that, or and the chairman's going, fuck off. No. No is my new favourite word. Yeah. You know, and the things we do, you know, we have a chef, we have a top training ground, we have employee, and then you get asked for more stuff, you know, the pitch, the issue, the tent, what we have to do, and you're getting these requests, and it's thousands of pounds, and we need new supplements, and the sports scientist is on about this, that. It's like, no, it's COVID. No. So right now, very few clubs, unless they've just been freshly bought, unless they've been bought by like very wealthy people, are making that kind of investment while COVID's around. You know, we are the only businesses right now in the UK open without income.
Now, do you think that with the salary cap and as things start to get back to normal, that's going to change? Like the salary cap actually is going to enable more investment
I think so.
off the field?
I think so, because the bigger clubs will still have 90 and 20,000 fans coming in. They should have a surplus of money. The surplus of money can be reduce owner debt. Surplus of money could be put in the academy. The surplus of money could be put in stadia. The surplus of money could be spent on fan initiatives. There's so much you can do. So you would like to think 2-3 years down the line and post-COVID that the salary caps and the common sense approach brought to football finance and wages and everything else, that surplus can be spent in the right areas.
So coming on to, we talked about sources of finance, about investing in the business, valuations. Is there a particular formula that is used by somebody when valuing when looking at the valuation and determining the valuation of a football club?
I guess everyone has their own valuation. You know, I got a very high valuation for my club based on not the size of the club, not the crowds, based on asset value of squad. Because I could say, well, that squad's worth millions and millions. So I might have only paid £1 and wiped out the debts, but I'm in for millions. And it has playing, you know, when my partners bought the club, I could have sold Jack Marriott for $4.5 million before they came in. So straight away there was $4.5 million sat on the balance sheet before they got there. That was just the one player. So it depends on the club. Other clubs you'll look at and go, well, no, the squad is full of journeymen. There's no value there. The club's $2 million in debt. They don't own their stadium. What's the valuation? You know, £1? I don't know. You're taking over a load of debt. You're taking over a load of shit. It depends. Everyone's got their own valuation. Yeah,
because it seems interesting that you look at, you know, a Wigan who can't, you know, find a buyer, and then you have like a Sunderland, which I know it's chalk and cheese in terms of, but you know, is it 30 million? Is it 40 million? Or these numbers?
Sunderland at 30, 40 million is a bargain. You're getting a stadium. You're getting a training ground. I mean, you're getting a Rolls Royce of a football club. It's a bargain. I can't believe it hasn't been snapped up. If that's the figure, I'm not confirming that is, if that's the figure for Sunderland, boy, that is like, wow.
And so we talked a little bit about this before on a pod when we're 2 or 3 weeks ago about funding takeovers. But are they typically all cash? Are they structured? They have earnouts? What does a usual, or again, is there a usual deal for?
When I bought Posh, I tried to do a deal on the Never Never. But Barry was like, it ain't April Fool's Day, fuck off. So I had to go in straight away and I had to clear about $1 million in director's debt that was owed to Alf Hand, it was owed to him, it was owed to the people. I had to obviously take over all the bills, the cash deficit, any pending bills that might have been. It was pretty well run anyway. I know Barry always likes to say he was like on death's door and he was using the mother-in-law's house, which he might have done. But credit to him, there weren't massive cobwebs floating around when I came in. So it depends if you're buying a club. I don't know. Give me an example of a club, to buy. I don't know. Give me a name.
I know. Port Vale.
All right. So I don't know. So nice owners, they might have put in 4 million. They might want their 4 million back. On top of that, there might be 2 million in debt in there. You don't know. They might want a return on their money. They might wake up and go, well, actually, we want 5 instead of 4. Yeah. Now, you might be able to go in, and this is, I'm not saying this verbatim, this is Port Vale per se, this is an example, and go, look, we'll give you 5, but you're going to have to take it over 3 years. Yeah. So we give you a down payment now of $1.5 million. We'll take over all the bills. You'll give me the shares, the rights to the shares, but it won't fully come over to me until I've made the whole payment. So there are ways to structure. Not a lot of people walk in and buy anything for the full asking price. Yeah. It's leveraged, it's over time, it's done that way. Or you can go and borrow, like Burnley did, from a fund against the Premier League money that's coming in to service the deal. So there's many ways to skin the cat. But if I were buying a football club tomorrow, I wouldn't be writing a check for the whole amount. Right. It would be over time. There would be bonuses in there, and the club getting promoted, the club getting to the Premier League, or whatever. You know what I mean? So, but I would do a good deal.
And so why is that? And let's just assume for a minute that whoever is buying the football club has the liquidity to buy it outright.
Sure.
Why would you choose not to and structure it in that way instead?
Well, because you might want to build a club. You might, if I go into a club, any club, so I bought a club in League Two, I'm going to have to put a transfer fund together. I'm going to have a rip everything up fund together, where you're going to have to change things and fire people and bring people in and da-da-da-da-da. I'm going to need 2 years to implement it all, to start winning promotions. So you're going to need that slush fund there. So you want to really throw out millions on top.
You don't want to throw everything onto a transfer price.
So you want to be clever. And not everyone, even wealthy people, don't walk around, pal, with millions sat in the bank.
There's not a briefcase that comes in and there you go.
Look, there's my safe there. You won't find $5,000 in it. But the point is, you got stocks, you got investments, you got equity, you got homes, you got, loans out. It's just the way it is. Not everyone is cash rich. There are times I'm not cash rich at all. And then there are times where I'm probably too cash rich.
It just depends on where all your investments are.
Yeah, correct. So that's just the way it goes.
So kind of to wrap up, it's been 15 years plus of club ownership for you. Yeah. What are some of the biggest lessons that you would say that you've learned?
I'm still learning all the time. And the big thing is like football affects you when you lose. No matter if you want to say it doesn't, it still affects you, even 15 years later. It really does. It affects your weekend. It affects your demeanor. Affects your life. I can still make impulsive decisions based on wanting to win. Yeah. So I might sign a player that maybe we don't need. Or I might pay a little bit more because we need that signing, based on the impulse of wanting to win a game. Not a financial decision, an impulsive, emotional decision. I only said it the other day to my partners. I said, I was happy with the recruitment, but I probably made 1 or 2 mistakes in some of the deals where maybe I paid a bit too much. Yep. Maybe I gave a bit too much of a contract, and I've got to learn from those. I'm not perfect, so as much as I'm the deal maker and I'm, the Ivan Toney deals I've done or whatever else over the years, but I don't always get it right, and I have to reflect and go, next time I have to do it better.
Isn't that part of the model though as well? That, of course. What you're doing is you're trying to minimize the risks and minimize the ones that don't work, but you can't get it right every time.
Can't get it right every time. As long as you're right most of the time, you're happy. And in football, with signing 3-4 players, if you get it right two times out of 4, you're ahead. Yeah. If you get it wrong 0 out of 4, you're behind. So what we do is no exact perfect science, but we definitely invest. And I don't think a lot of people have that money or cojones to do that, when it comes to the big transfers. So our fans were digging me out on deadline day for not doing deals. We were the biggest spenders in our league this year. Take both windows, we were the biggest spenders. There's no doubt about it. So some fans can dig us out for not wanting to do business. We were quite happy with that decision.
All right, well, I think that's it for the questions. We got a couple of listener questions that we're going to come back with after the break. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We have a couple of questions that we just want to ask before we end the pod this week. And the first one comes from Emma Green. Emma asks, what does Darragh think will happen with season tickets for next season? Not only for Peterborough in general, but just will clubs actually be able to persuade supporters to buy them?
Yeah, because I think as much as a lot of members of the press would love a lockdown forever, based on their own rise in bank balance through COVID, I think the vaccines are going to defeat them all. Mm-hmm. I do. I think you're going to see to the stage where they just can't justify life not being normal anymore. So I actually do feel like 100% positive that we'll have full crowds in August.
Yeah.
I do. Because I think by June, July, you broke the back off it. Mm-hmm. They can't use the NHS anymore as a reason to keep people home. There'll be less people dying, less people hospitalised. The virus will mutate and dilute down the line. It will take time. And everyone's got to stay strong about not locking up again.
Yeah.
And I think we have to have normality back, because there's nothing. If it continues into next season, then the government's going to have to finally write a check for football and sport, because otherwise we'll all be gone.
Yeah, I think that.
But I do think fans will stay loyal and want to buy tickets, because I think they're going to see that desire to be back. They're going to want to be back.
There's a lot of pent up demand.
Oh yeah,
for
big
sure.
time, big time.
Yeah, and it's interesting for you. You refunded as well. I mean, for a club like Bradford, I don't think we refunded. But
we did options. We didn't have to do all refunds. We gave everyone we gave multiple options, and luckily, not most of them took up the refund. Right. They took up the other options, and most clubs didn't do refunds, and they can't do what they've offered them, but they didn't do them because fans were great and didn't take them up. Bradford probably included.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there was no complaints, really. I mean, I'm sure that maybe the club will argue otherwise. Maybe there was a few complaints here and there, but when you're looking at how many complaints out of 9,000...
it was magnificent from all our fans. I have to say, all fans of all clubs have been unfucking believable.
And continue to shout out for iFollow.
Absolutely. Unbelievable. So, and that's not been the greatest service. So I just feel that people are going to overdose on football come August.
So I got a question from Zach, who's a Leeds fan.
Yes.
Zach asks, what are Darragh's thoughts on clubs using a director of football like Leeds' Victor Orta versus giving a manager the most power in deciding which players to go for?
Yeah, they're all copying me. I did it 15 years ago. Baz has been my director of football since day one. It wasn't really fashionable back then. A few clubs did it. I'd been for years saying it's the way to go.
Yeah. And
I couldn't say enough about it. In fact, I had Aaron McLean on. He's doing a course, our ex-player. I spent a couple of hours with him going over his course.
Our ex-player as well.
Yeah.
Although not as successful.
I know. He didn't have a good time there under Parkinson, but that's a story for another day. But he wants to be possibly a director of football.
Yeah.
So we were speaking about it, and I was saying the importance of it and the things you have to do, and I was giving him a few tips on the things he could do now while he's studying. And it's massive. It's so important in the game. Leeds have got it right. Victor does a great job. Yeah. I think Liverpool have one. All the big clubs have one now. I think United are the only ones who don't really have one. Do you know what I mean? So
is it becoming a career path of its own, as opposed to, let's just put in a manager who,
technical
maybe
directors,
is...
directors of football, recruitment directors. It's a big department now in sport, in most sports. And I think the NFL is a big example. Like a GM who's a general manager. Sometimes you'll get a coach that's a coach and a GM.
Yeah.
Like Bill Belichick, the Patriots, he recruits and he does the coaching. Very rare in the NFL. Most of the time, it's the GM. And
often the GM will bring his own coaches, the coaches that he wants to work with.
100% they do. It's usually a dream team together. So it's a good thing for football. Now, clubs lower down the pyramid can't always afford to do that. And if clubs down the pyramid aren't really signing loads of players, or they're getting loans, do they need a recruitment maestro, to come in and do all that? So I don't know. But I do think if you can afford it, it's money well spent. It's a great question.
All right. Last question we have, and we did kind of touch on this earlier. It's from Alex Cole, who's a Scunthorpe fan.
Sure.
Alex is asking, how important do you feel it is for a football club to own their own stadium? We talked about it a little bit, but the context here is because Alex suggests that Peter Swan, the Scunthorpe chairman right now, is looking at doing some deal that pays off the debts of the clubs that the club has to the chairman, but in return getting some ownership of the stadium outside of the club.
I've got no problem with that. I know some fans are a bit sticky about that, about the ownership of the stadium being separated from the actual club. I've always said if we're funding buying the stadium externally, you don't want to put that debt on the club.
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, the club ownership stadium is all together anyway. Unless you've got really bad owners, unless the owners have got like a dicey history, then you should worry. when you've been an owner like me, say for 15 years, you've got my partners who've been brilliant owners for a few years, you don't really have to lose sleep about what we're doing. We're doing it for the right reason. We're doing it for the long-term health of the football club. And that's all we want to do. We're not doing it to make money.
Yeah, you're not looking at that as an investment vehicle.
There is no payoff.
Yeah.
So we're only looking to get it back, have it, get a new stadium, use that. We're using it for the right reasons and to the betterment of the team, the squad, the academy, the club, the facilities, down the line, cheaper tickets. They're all the key reasons. Do you know what I mean? So Peter Swan, I know he gets dug out a lot, but I know he's put a lot of money into Scunthorpe and he's had a bad run recently. But him and his wife have put millions in there. So cut him a bit of slack. Anyone who's been paying their bills through COVID and everything we've been dealing with, you got to cut them some slack.
All right, well, that's it for today.
Great, good
thank
episode.
you, everybody, for your questions. Again, we'll ask you, as always, rate and review the podcast on iTunes if it's something that you enjoy listening to. We'll be back next Wednesday, which will be February the 17th. Got any questions, then you can head over to hardtruthfootball.com/contact. And we have the email address, which is contact@hardtruthfootball.com. And last but by no means least, we have been building the bones of the business podcast, the community. We actually recorded today the first episode of the podcast. So
pilot episode.
That's going to be out there in the feeds in a week or so.
Lovely.
But if you want to continue to just sign up to register your interest in that when we do finally go live, that's at hardtruthbusiness.com. And there's just a quick first name, last name, give us your email address, and then as soon as we're ready to go, we'll send you an email with all the details.
You don't want to miss that.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot, everybody.